Everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. Looking at Stevens Homelite Super 1130G. Pretty clean saw, all in all. And there's a lot of paint left on this thing. Rubber's a little torn, but that's not abnormal. Really, all things considered, here's the fuel tank. It's in great shape. A little bit of damage to the muffler cover is not abnormal. I'm afraid to even touch this. I'm hoping I don't have to remove it for anything I'm doing because I don't trust how well it's going to hold up. This is distorted out of shape so badly that if you tried to straighten it and you knew somebody who could weld magnesium, which I cannot, yeah, I'm afraid it would just crumble apart. So my thought on this is to leave it alone. But anyway, this saw is new to Steven. He picked it up, and the seller he bought it from indicated it would need new fuel hoses, which is not a lie. If you've got hoses that are that stiff, they're not worth a damn. This was the one that was in the tank, and the fuel filter was actually sitting up off of the bottom of the tank. So I guess the saw had laid on its side for a while, and then the hose hardened and just held that shape. So trying to make it run would have been a real pain in the ass, or impossible. Haven't gone through the carb yet. I just got the fuel hoses replaced. So on these gear drives with this style tank, this is an interesting setup. You've got your barb here and hose that runs over to the carburetor. But it's not immediately obvious what you've got to do to get that inner hose replaced. And I think a lot of guys are going to end up giving up and pulling this cover off. But then you got to deal with sealing that. I'm not going down that road. This is a fitting right here, and it's got an O-ring set up on it. And this should unscrew. Well, obviously it gets tight over the years, and I'm not the only one that's been in there because that was pretty damn torn up when I started going into the saw. So my guess is the seller had tried to replace these hoses, couldn't get this fitting out, and there it was. So there was no way in hell I was going to do that with just a regular flat blade screwdriver. It was just going to tear it to smithereens. So what I did is I got my large impact driver bit, and that goes to one of the hammer impact drivers. Slip that right into my 5/16 impact socket on my little rattle gun here, and then I held it in place and just went slow. I didn't just pull the trigger, just give it slow, easy hammers. About the fifth one, it's spun right out. So you can salvage those, and you can replace those hoses without cracking into the tank. And if your tank is a factory seal, avoid cracking it if at all possible, because it's always 10 times harder to get the damn thing to seal back up. But anyway, I was just about to button this up, and something looked just wrong, out of place. This bell crank was all the way down like that, and I'm going, well, how the hell is the manual oiler ever going to work? Well, the manual oiler's not there, and it's the first time I've seen that particular thing happen. So you guys have seen more than likely the standard, I don't know if I can find one real quick, standard plunger on the Super XL and the XL 123s and all of that screws in. Damn, I know I've got one, but I'm not going to find it. Here, oh, I take that back. So this style, it screws into the throttle handle kind of up on top. Well, what they used on these was a very similar design, but it was set up to install from the bottom of the oil tank, and the push rod is, I don't know, that long or so. That way it comes up and contacts this bell crank. And as you push the oiler, boom, it'll have a spring set up supposed to put it back. Well, that all is gone. And I had to have a good laugh. There was quite a bit of oil in the box when I got it, and I just assumed the cap gasket was leaking. But that was only part of it. So there should be another brass fitting screwed in right down here with that plunger behind it, and that's all missing, and there's just some sort of a rubber plug that doesn't seal tight at all, and that's why it was leaking all that oil out. So Steven, I'm going to go out to eBay. I'm pretty sure I can find that plunger and get all that back into shape. So that'll delay getting this back to you a little bit, but you want to have the saw the way it's supposed to be. So in the meantime, though, I'll get this SDC carb rebuilt, get the tank back on, and we'll do a test run. Just wanted everybody to see that oiler setup that's missing and kind of what to look for on one of these gear drive saws. Well, Steven, I don't know about you. I think that sounds pretty damn good. So, carburetor kit is all it took to get this thing to fire to life. I don't have that much fuel in it, because obviously I'm going to have to drain it to make it not stink for the post office again, but we'll see. I like to let these things sit for a couple days after I've gotten them running and then fire them again. Again, I got to wait for that oil pump assembly to come in and then get that all working, but other than that, everything looks pretty good. Starter's smooth. I mean, the compression on this thing's a monster. I mean, I'm hanging that thing and it's barely bleeding off. So I think you got yourself a hell of a nice saw here. I'll go through, get a new grommet in the air filter, clean that up a little bit, get that all taken care of, and then we'll play hurry up and wait on that manual oiler.